Hey there everyone! Thank you for clicking on the video today. I made a promise a few months ago when I made my list of Disney villain defeats that I would also make a list of Disney villain deaths. So I am going to honor that promise today. Now once again, this list is exclusively Walt Disney Animation Studios, so no Pixar, Disney Toon, Disney Channel, Touchstone, live action, or whatever else Disney you can think of, just the animated villains. And obviously there will be spoilers for movies that are all over a decade old, so proceed at your own caution. Now before we get into the list, I have one honorable mention. DOR15, aka Doris from Meet the Robinson. I couldn't really figure out if a robot technically counts as a death, but I thought it was fitting to mention Doris anyway because she is a very cool villain. She manages to convince the bowler hat guy to help her trick Louis into fixing his memory scanner so that they can use it to become famous inventors. And then she tricks the humans into mass producing her kind of robot, the Helping Hats, and takes over the whole future. In a really creepy sequence, actually. But I just love it when Louis realizes that he is her creator and he can just decide not to create her in the future. And then he tells her that and she just disappears. She turns to dust, which is another reason why I wasn't sure I could put her on a list, because she doesn't technically die, she just ceases to exist from the timeline. So can you even die if you were never alive? Now, number 13, Scroop from Treasure Planet. In an inverse of the popular falling death that Disney is so very fond of, Scroop suffers a fate I would not wish upon my worst enemy. As he is attempting to send Jim out into space by cutting the rope on the flag, Jim manages to kick Scroop into the flag, and since he cut the rope, it's brittle, it breaks, and he flies off into space screaming, and you just know as soon as he exits the atmosphere of Treasure Planet, he is going to just instantly die from the lack of oxygen in space. Truly a brutal end, but well deserved. I truly love it when a villain dies in a way that the hero escapes. Poetic justice. Number 12, Sykes from Oliver and Company. Sykes is just one of the most detestable villains in the entirety of the Disney canon. I mean, he kidnaps a little girl and holds her for ransom. Anyway, once Fagin and Oliver and the dogs manage to rescue Jenny, Sykes chases after them through the streets of New York City, and he is so insistent on capturing them that he drives his car into the subway tunnels to follow them onto the tracks with not a care in the world for how dangerous this situation is for him. He loses his dogs in a battle with Dodger. Poor things, they fall onto the subway cables and are electrocuted to death. I hate that bit. And then, just as a subway train is driving towards them, the dogs on the scooter manage to jump up onto the cable of the bridge, and Sykes is hit by a subway train. And he gets to see just as it's about to hit him, so he knows what's happening to him. The look on his face, priceless. But I have to say he probably gets away with a fairly instantaneous death, so lucky him. Number 11 is Turbo, aka King Candy from Wreck-It Ralph. So Vanellope manages to use her glitching powers to turn King Candy back into Turbo and evade him as he's trying to kill her during the race. Then, after Vanellope escapes, Turbo is eaten by a Cybug, which he then merges with, and he then tries to stop Ralph from knocking down the Mentos to create the beacon that will kill all of the Cybugs. But Ralph manages to escape anyway and create a giant cola explosion, and because of the Cybug, Turbo is compelled to fly towards this boiling geyser, and he's conscious of what's about to happen when he flies into it, which must be really horrifying. Like, you can't stop yourself from doing something that's going to kill you, you just have to watch as it's happening. It's kind of like The View from Halfway Down at this point. Number 10 is Clayton from Tarzan. So while they're fighting in the treetops, Clayton becomes increasingly frustrated with Tarzan and he becomes erratic, so Tarzan tries to tangle him in vines to keep him from attacking and hopefully talk some sense into him. But Clayton begins to cut the vines, not realizing that there is one around his neck that he should have cut as one of the first. He ignores Tarzan's warnings and cuts the vine he is holding in his hand, resulting in him plummeting down and hanging himself in a vine. And just to make it clear, the Disney animators decided that there should be a shadow of his dangling body visible on the tree. I always love a little bit of horror in my animated family movies. Number 9, Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty. After Prince Philip escapes and the army of trolls and ogres fail and her beloved pet raven, Diablo, is turned into stone, Maleficent turns into a dragon in order to kill Prince Philip, make sure he doesn't wake up Aurora, and just kill any hope of happily ever after. And she nearly gets the upper hand against Prince Philip, but the fairies cast a spell on his already enchanted sword, so it will fly directly into Maleficent's heart, which kills her. I don't know if it's instantaneously, because she falls down on the cliff, so it breaks under her weight. She is a massive dragon. And then she lands on the ground below, where it looks like it's just her cape at that point with the sword sticking out of it. So did she die from being impaled or from being engulfed by the flames she spewed herself as a dragon? Either way, it's a really awesome sequence of 2D animation from the 1950s. Number 8, Ursula from The Little Mermaid. Ursula wastes no time once she's gotten her hands on the Triton. She accidentally kills her beloved moray eel henchmen Flotsam and Jetsam because of Ariel and Eric's interference, so she becomes rightfully furious, I have to say. She turns into a giant, causing a massive whirlpool in the ocean, which picks up wrecked ships. Prince Eric manages to board one of the ships and he sails it with a broken bowsprit, I looked it up, directly into Ursula's stomach just as a lightning strikes her. I love the way they animate her tentacles as she's sinking into the ocean and they drag the ship down with her like she's the Kraken. Number 7, Mother Gothel from Tangled. So, Mother Gothel fatally stabs Eugene as he tries to rescue Rapunzel. Rapunzel then begs to be allowed to save his life, insisting that she will go with Gothel willingly and never fight her. But just as she's about to try and heal Eugene, he uses a shard of broken glass to cut off her hair. And without the magic hair, Mother Gothel's true age finally begins catching up with her. She instantly turns old, wrinkled, white hair, and then Pascal drags the cut off hair. Just as Gothel is stumbling towards the window, she trips and falls out of the window, and on her way down, she turns to dust, so when her cape lands on the ground, there is nothing but dust disappearing in the wind. It's kind of a horrifying commentary on the price of immortality. Number 6, Scar from The Lion King. When Simba gets the upper paw in their fight, Scar claims that the hyenas were to blame for everything, which is a good lesson to never turn on your henchmen. Simba banishes Scar from the Pride Lands in a poetic callback to Scar's advice to young Simba to run away. But Scar, of course, cannot give up, so he decides to try and sucker punch Simba, but Simba manages to kick him off of Pride Rock, and then he lands below just as the hyenas, who are very angry at his portrayal at this point, surround him, mock him, and then eat him alive. And these are hyenas. They have like really sharp teeth and intense jaws. Not a way I want to go. Number 5, Percival C. McLeach from The Rescuers Down Under. Bernard really is the star of the show in this scene. He manages to use McLeach's lizard, Joanna, to hop onto McLeach, knocking both of them into the crocodile hole. And the crocodiles begin surrounding McLeach, who fights them off, but he is distracted for just long enough that he doesn't realize he's floating towards a waterfall. And then because the pull of the waterfall is so strong, he can't swim fast enough to avoid going over it. death. I suppose this is technically a falling death, but it's just the poetic justice of him being so busy fighting the crocodiles that he doesn't realize that there was an even bigger danger, and then the crocodiles swim away from him. And another case of the hero avoiding the same fate, because Cody and Bernard also drift over the waterfall, but Marahute manages to rescue them. Number 4, Dr. Facilier from The Princess and the Frog. This sequence is just so cool. When his offer to Tiana fails, Facilier gloats that she made the wrong decision. He turns Tiana back into a frog, but having finally grown comfortable with being a frog, Tiana grabs the necklace, smashes it into the ground, and then the voodoo spirits come out of the graves, taunting Facilier with a reprise of Friends on the Other Side, best song by the way, and then they drag him by his shadow, actually, screaming into a nearby mausoleum, which then bears his face and name on it after he has been dragged to what I can only assume is hell. Number 3, Shan Yu from Mulan. I love a good plan and the whole serendipity of this situation. Mulan is so good at thinking on her feet, being practical in this scenario. She lures Shan Yu onto the roof of the palace. Then she manages to disarm him using a fan. An awesome commentary on how the feminine is not necessarily useless. She takes his sword, sticks it into his clothes, so he is stuck on the roof as Mushu and Cricky use fireworks to send Shan Yu into the nearby fireworks tower, which then blows up. Seriously, that must be a horrifying way to go. He is aware what's going to happen to him, and he just blows to pieces. Number 2, the Horned King from The Black Cauldron. Yeah, of course, Disney's horror movie had to be here. So after Gurgi sacrifices himself to stop the cauldron, the Horned King returns furious in order to find out what went wrong. And he is so focused on Taran that he doesn't realize that the cauldron is pulling him towards it before it's too late. And then once he's right up next to it, the magic of the cauldron has such a strong pull that it just tears off all of his skin, whatever skin he had left anyway, and then drags his entire skeleton into it. Nothing like 80s fantasy movies and horror imagery. And number 1, doubleheader, Commander Lyle Tiberius Rourke and Lieutenant Helga Katrina Sinclair from Atlantis: The Lost Empire. A tale of adventurers and betrayal between the villains. Rourke throws Helga off of the balloon because it's too heavy, so she lands at the base of the volcano badly injured, but then she sends a flare gun into the balloon. Good for her. And then while Rourke is fighting Milo on the hot air balloon, he smashes the glass of the container holding Kida, and with a fire axe, Milo grabs a shard of broken glass and then cuts Rourke with it. And because of the magic of the crystal, Rourke turns basically into a crystal. He turns all blue. It basically looks like a Ben 10 transformation. And then for a moment, it's like he can't move. And then suddenly he gives off this inhumane scream, basically. He chases after Milo, who then, on pure accident, manages to use gravity to send Rourke up into the blades of the balloon, and then he turns into a million tiny shards, and then the balloon plummets to the base of the volcano, where Helga, at that point, was presumably still alive, and which would then kill her instantly, or she would have definitely died when the volcano woke up. And therefore I thought it was only fitting that this death scene had to be number 1. Alright, this was a fun video to make. Although if I'm being honest, I didn't really get any particular response out of my Disney Villain Defeats video. So I'm not really sure I'm going to be making too many list videos if it's not really something anyone would be interested in watching anyways. But maybe there are people interested in watching, so if you are, then please let me know in the comments, like the video. Maybe go back and watch my defeats list and comment on that, or let me know if it's even interesting to talk about anymore, because maybe these kind of lists have been done to death anyway. I do think I want to focus more on making character analysis videos, which I do have some ideas of. But either way, I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!